Alright, so you just picked up the game, did the tutorial, and still have no idea what the hell you were doing. Trust me, every Phasmo player has been there. So now the question is, what do I do? Well then, let's get started. Your objective is to determine the type of ghost you are dealing with. To do this, you need to gather 3 types of evidence, which can be done using your equipment. Each tool has 3 tiers, and each tier is supposed to be better than the previous tier, but there are a few exceptions. However, at the beginning, you're only going to have tier 1 equipment, which is the most basic form of the tools you will use. In the beginning, you'll have the tier 1 versions of the DOTS projector. Don't ask me what DOTS stands for. EMF reader, flashlight, ghost writing book, spirit box, thermometer, UV light, and the video camera. All of this equipment, except for the flashlight, will have you gather or rule out evidence to ID the ghost, so pay attention. EMF level 5 means you get a reading of 5 on the EMF reader. This can come from normal ghost interactions. When a ghost isn't doing anything, you get a level of 1. When the ghost touches something, you'll get a reading of 2. When the ghost throws an object, you'll get a reading of 3. And when the ghost does the ghost event, basically when the ghost summons a person hunt, you'll get a reading of 4. However, if the ghost has EMF 5 as an evidence set, there's a chance giving off level 5. If it gives off EMF 5 during a hunt, it does not count, because that is just the EMF reader fluctuating. The DOS projector evidence type means that you see a silhouette of the ghost in the beam of lasers that the projector gives. Very simple. UV evidence is basically when you shine your ultraviolet light at a place where you know the ghost has touched, and it shows a handprint or fingerprint. If you unlock salt and the ghost steps in a salt pile, you can shine UV light at the salt, and it may show footprints. This also counts as UV evidence. Ghost orb evidence is when you point your camera into the ghost's favorite room, and you see floating white dots. However, be warned that the mimic can fake this evidence, meaning that if you mark it, you won't see the mimic as an option. We will talk about special ghost abilities later. Ghost writing is basically when the ghost writes something in the ghost book. That is it. I don't know what else to explain. Spirit box is when you speak to the ghost via the spirit box with your voice or with the text option, and you receive a response. The lights need to be off for this to work, by the way. Freezing temps are basically when the thermometer reads the room as less than 1 degree Celsius or 41 degrees Fahrenheit. However, that is impossible to see on the tier 1 thermometer, so stick to 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. When you get this evidence, mark it in the journal, and the game will automatically rule out the ghosts. You can also double click on various evidence and ghost types to rule them out, but do not do so unless you are sure that the ghost doesn't have that evidence or that nature. Be patient. So, for example, if you get UV, ghost writing, and freezing temps, you know you are dealing with a demon. However, the game is not that easy. There are several other things we need to discuss to prepare you for the game. First of all, at the start of each round, the breaker will spawn in a random room. This breaker's job is to heat the house to room temperature. If the breaker is off, every room will be cold. However, if the breaker is on, every room will be room temperature except the ghost room. On amateur difficulty, the breaker starts on. On every other difficulty, the breaker starts off. So, at the start of every round, turn on the breaker and look for the coldest room with the thermometer. However, the house takes a bit of time to heat up, and a tier 1 thermometer takes time to adjust. So just drop your stuff at the door and use the time the house needs to heat up to gather your equipment at the door, so you don't have to go all the way back to the truck to get more equipment. Once you identify the ghost room, set up your equipment in the room to gather evidence. However, if it were that easy, the game wouldn't be so popular, would it? There is a statistic each player has that is called sanity. Staying in the house, especially in the dark, decreases your sanity. This is very important, trust me. Now, while you're investigating, the ghosts will interact with objects, which can be used to gather evidence. So stay attentive and look and listen for interactions, such as doors and windows being touched, salt being stepped through, and objects being activated or thrown. The ghost can also do a ghost event, where it does something scary, but it can't kill you. However, it does drain your sanity. And finally, the scariest thing of all, hunts. So most ghosts hunt at an average sanity of 50%. Some ghosts hunt earlier, some later, but that is the average. During a hunt, the ghost will look for a target. If it sees you, it will chase you. If it comes in contact with you, you will die. If it sees you go into a hiding spot, it will enter the hiding spot and you will die. So do not get in line of sight and hide. It is good to decide on a couple of hiding spots and plan an escape in case of a hunt, so you are not caught off guard. On higher difficulties, more hiding spots are blocked, so make sure to notice open hiding spots. These hiding spots can be closets, lockers, and behind tall objects and boxes. Do not get confused with a ghost event and a hunt. If you hear a scream or a yell and hear footsteps, that's a hunt. There's a ton more to the game, including 12 pieces of optional equipment, each of them also having 3 tiers. There are also special ghost abilities, including the Mimic's fake ghost orbs, the Obake's shapeshift, and the Revenant's ability to speed up when it sees a ghost hunter. And there are also various cursed objects, which cause cursed hunts, which are just hunts that are harder to survive. With that being said, I hope this guide helped you out. If you learned anything at all through this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with other beginners having trouble with the game. Thank you for watching and happy ghost hunting!